Raiders, Dolphins. Miami wins this one 34-19. Top 5 graded Miami Dolphin players in this game. Speaking of rookies, edge rusher Chop Robinson at the top of this list, and 86.4, stepping up for an edge rush group that really needed a presence there for them. Offensive tackle Teron Armstead an 84.0. Number 3, Tyreek Hill, a 76.6. Running back Devon Achane with a 75.7, and then linebacker Anthony Walker Jr. rounding things out with a 75.3. Tua Tagovailoa in this game is 66.0. On the other side of things, Las Vegas Raiders top graded player was linebacker Robert Spillane with an 81.5. Tight end Brock Bowers, unbelievable season. I'll get to him in a second. An 80.7. Offensive tackle Colton Miller an 80.0. Edge rusher Charles Snowden a 76.4, and then defensive tackle John Jenkins a 72.3. Gardner Minshew in this game a 65.5 overall grade. Dalton, what do we got?
All right, let's just talk about the Dolphins in kind of a broad scheme here real quick.
Okay.
Tua just existing in this offense makes it way.
I agree. We have the same talking point.
Way better.
Yep,
right? And he's not the best quarterback in football. He's not Tua or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, I should say, or Lamar Jackson. We know what Tua can and can't do. And there's times he gets hot and he's really good. And that, his 64.9 passing grade dragged down a bit by a fumble he had early in the game. Like the rest of the game, it was in the low to mid 70s. Like he was solid, right? And generally that's what he is. And in this offense, that's all you need with the play calling from Mike McDaniel, with the after the catch, with the way they create in the run game. The 4 starts now that Tua's had since he's come back from the concussion. They're second in EPA per play, the second in successful play rate. They've scored on 60% of their drives. That's best in the NFL. This is still a really dangerous offense as long as Tua stays healthy. That's just the facts. Would they have to almost run the table to get to the playoffs at this point? Sure. But I believe they have to play the Jets, I think, twice, and they play the Browns, and they have a New England game. There are winnable games in their schedule down the stretch here where you go, okay, maybe if they were to get, just like we talked about with the Bengals, if they got raging hot and their offense does what we know that what they can do, maybe they have an outside chance at this thing. But it all happens just literally just because Tua came back. 288, 3 touchdowns. Again, passing grade, decent, not spectacular. He's he's not Joe Burrow or Josh Allen, but in this offense that is suited to his skills, they're way better. They can still be really efficient, and it's still the Dolphins offense that we know. They have other issues. I think if they're going to get held back from here in, it's their defense. It might be their offensive line, but if Tua's in there, they're a threat to almost anybody.
No, I agree. It's just it's so much easier to have faith in this team with Tua there, and everything is so much better with Tua in the lineup. It sounds like it's just an absolute duh, but it is. Without him in there, they were one of the worst offenses in the NFL, the least explosive offenses in the NFL, and over the last couple of weeks, even though it hasn't been like a clean sweep in terms of overall wins, this has been a team that's looked competent and has really looked playing well. And you almost wish that you could just hit reset for this Dolphins team and almost just say, like, can we just play the season over actually and see what happened there, just because the injuries that they've had to deal with, and obviously Tua being one of them. So I agree with you. The stat that told the story is simply the fact that Tua is out there. And now when they are, Miami can beat the lower tiered teams in the NFL, because before that wasn't the case. With him not in the lineup, they were one of the lower tier teams in the NFL.
They shouldn't have even beat New England without him.
Right. And so now you're at a spot where they're kind of like a middling team now at this point, as they're getting a lot more healthy and they're sort of figuring things out. So they're not quite the offense they were last year, but I agree. Tua being there is absolutely the stat that told the story. Most impressive to me is Brock Bowers, and it's really just a Brock Bowers sort of appreciation, a hat tip, a nod, whatever you want to call it. 16 targets in this game. 16.
Good player.
What are the Raiders without him? What are the Las Vegas Raiders without Brock Bowers? You talk about like guys who have been able to come in as rookies and change things. Genuine question. He is a top at least 4 or 5 tight end in football right now. Not on this football team. This is the worst offense in the league. Like, this is probably worse than Carolina without Brock Bowers. They're force-feeding a rookie tight end because they don't have other options. They have a terrible run game. I think the run game is my most disappointing in this one. 10 carries for 28 yards for Zamir White and Alexander Madison. That's never going to get it done for you. Wide receivers, not able to get it done outside of Brock Bowers, if you consider him a wide receiver. Anyways, 16 targets, 13 receptions, 126 yards and a touchdown for Bowers. He's first in receptions, he's first in yards, and he's first in yards after catch for tight ends this season.
I think he might be leading in receptions for all players. I think a couple weeks ago he was. He might be leading all wide receivers in catches too. I mean, we keep, I think there was a few weeks ago we assumed the rookie of the year was Jaden Daniels, and it may still be. A couple other guys coming in hot, and I'll tell you what, the year that Brock Bowers is having might get him a higher number of votes than you might think. I know the quarterback thing is always biased towards that, but he's a top 5 tight end right now already.
Yes.
Like without question.
I do think it's very funny the conversations that we had before the draft. I think I've said this on the show before, where we said, well, you have to kind of like justify his production of how you would draft him, because if you would draft him in the top 5 of the NFL draft, he basically has to play like a top 5 quarterback or top 5 tight end in the league, or it's not worth it because of the way that tight end contracts are set up and guaranteed money and all that kind of stuff.
But if it hits,
and very clearly, he went. What did he get picked? 11th? Was he 11th? 13th? I think I always think it's 11, but it's actually 13.
No, I think it's 13.
He gets picked there, and now it's just a steal. It's an absolute steal if you take it a tight end in the top 15. So he was unbelievable. My most disappointed was the Raiders' run game, but yeah, anything else you got?
I'm going to stay on just a couple more numbers on how bad this Raiders' run game has been. We've talked about it a lot. So their running backs have a 50.1 rushing grade through Week 11. That's the worst by any team since 2016. And they are currently tracking. PFF's been a thing since 2006. They are tracking to have the worst EPA per rush in PFF history. That's where we're at.
Where is this team without Brock Bowers?
Nowhere.
This is the worst offense in the NFL if you replace him. If you replace Brock Bowers even with like a good tight end. Like a good one.
No, yeah.
Not I'm not talking like a top 10 tight end, but if you replace, because I don't want, it's unfair to be like, okay, well, if he's not on the team, well, I get Michael Mayer, right? If Michael Mayer is fully healthy.
Yeah, no.
This is the worst offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Worst offense in the NFL without Brock Bowers.
And just to shout out a tight end on the other side who's playing really well lately. I really liked the Jonnu Smith signing for the Dolphins, just considering the after the catch ability, and he's playing really well lately. He's another reason this offense has gotten hot. 6 catches for 101 yards in this game and 2 touchdowns. And since Week 5, tight end receiving grade, okay? Mm-hmm. George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Jonnu Smith. Added a dimension, and the tight ends for the Dolphins last year were among the least productive in football. They found a groove with using Jonnu Smith, especially in a lot of their motion stuff. He's added a different dimension, I think, especially a horizontal dimension to their passing game that's working really well. He's been really productive for them lately.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.